Hi, Bashar.
Good day to you, Molly.
We have a lot of really exciting questions from the audience today.
All right.
The first question regarding this step two of social experiment, how does this apply to spiritual conversations with people who enjoy discussing spiritual matters rather than conversations with religious people who hold strong religious beliefs given to them by that religion? I ask because I enjoy talking with spiritual minded people, including Bashar's spiritual teachings.
Step two does not prevent you from having spiritually oriented discussions. It is simply asking you not to argue with people who have specific beliefs that may be either spiritual or religious. In the sense of sharing is fine. In the sense of attempting to convince someone to change, that is what the step two is attempting to avoid, so that you can remain neutral, share where appropriate, share where there is like-minded discussion. That is fine.
In a recent interview by Daryl, Next Step for Our Planet, Daryl said the vibration of contact and the Interstellar Alliance is a very narrow bandwidth. He discussed the idea as it relates to conspiracy theories. Does the remark, a very narrow bandwidth, have any secondary meaning? And if so, can you expand on this?
It simply means that there is a specific frequency to the version of Earth that is experiencing contact with certain extraterrestrial societies. There are an infinite number of parallel realities, and many of them may be experiencing contact, but they are experiencing contact in different combinations in different ways, each of which is its own narrow bandwidth. A slight change in the frequency would mean that you're experiencing contact in a different way and even potentially with a different group of extraterrestrial beings. So the idea of our particular interstellar alliance, the organization and what it contains in terms of the civilizations, the degree to which they participate, the degree to which humans on Earth will participate, the degree to which we are involved with you in open contact, has a specific frequency, which is simply another way of saying a narrow bandwidth. So the steps we are giving you is specifically trained to that bandwidth.
Can you explain how to discern between a conspiracy theory versus just new or lesser known information? For example, there are probably people who would call the hybrid agenda a conspiracy theory, and your transmissions don't have conventional scientific evidence or agreement around them. But it still doesn't seem like we were meant to treat this information as a conspiracy theory. And there are other examples in different fields, like progressive work in archaeology and such, that some might treat as conspiracy just because it's different than what's established or traditional. How do we sort out what is conspiracy from what is clear, so to speak?
Do the work, do the research yourself. If something is something you are interested in, don't just follow because one person says something or a number of people says something and go off just the idea that it feels right because you're out of touch with why it is you decide to go along with it. Do the work, do the research. If it is something of interest to you, take the time to do your own investigations. Find out what facts you can, find out what information you can. Make sure that your particular style of research isn't flawed in terms of simply being something that goes off of what you would prefer to feel out of anxiety or any other feeling, and allow yourself the opportunity to take the time to do the research. Don't rush to a conclusion. Remain neutral, even with our information. This is why we give you things like the formula, because when you take the time to apply them, really learn them, then you can get an effect and see that it is something that works. So the idea of any other particular discipline, any other knowledge or information that may be coming to you, if it is important to you, if it is something that you find attractive or you are curious about, take the time to do the research, even if that research takes days, weeks, months, years. You don't have to rush into believing something to be true just because someone says it, just because you might feel some gravitational attraction toward it. Take the time, aside from the attraction, to find out what really makes sense to you. Make sure that your technique of investigation isn't flawed, that you're not making unbased assumptions. Just allow yourself to take the time to find out what about it really is relevant for you, what about it is really relevant to most people, what is it that really makes a difference in your world in a way that can be, to you, verified by making the kind of changes in your reality that allow you to move forward in a beneficial way. A lot of conspiracy theories are, shall we say, peppered with fear, peppered with anxiety, are simply spur of the moment ideas with absolutely no research. And even some people who say that there is, research online, are simply going along with someone who says they've done the research, but they don't really know if their research is flawed. They may simply be going off a hunch. So the idea is, take the time to do the research yourself, no matter how long it takes. Stay neutral until you satisfy yourself completely that it is something worth pursuing, because you're the one deciding that you're attracted to it. And if you are attracted to it, then it's worth pursuing. Take the time to do so in a manner, in a way that really gives you the assurance and the confidence that it is something that can be applied in your life in a relevant way and benefits humanity.
Thank you.
Yes.
Along those lines, this person wants to know if urban legends are included in conspiracy theories.
They can be. In a sense, they're like a close cousin, but again, what I just said still applies. If you are attracted to something like that, curious about it, take the time to do the work. Take the time to do the research. Make sure that your research technique isn't flawed. Make sure that you are actually doing the science, that you're really doing the math, if that is applicable. Allow yourself to remain neutral until you find something that truly represents convincing evidence to you. And ask yourself always the why question. Why would this be important for me to know one way or another? Remain neutral until you can fully answer that question as to why it's important to you. Because then if you have honest self-investigation, you may discover that the why may be based on anxiety, or the why may be based on excitement, or the why may be based on being of service to humanity, or a number of other reasons. But find out why you're interested in it. Don't just accept it at face value.
Is it safe to say that all of us here are involved in a conspiracy theory called ET-UFO? You mentioned focusing on evidence and facts. Will we be provided with such in the next steps, just so open contact is not labeled as a conspiracy theory by others?
Yes, the steps will include things to do that will take you step by step in a direction where you can verify things for yourself when necessary in the appropriate timing. But I also remind you, it doesn't matter what other people think.
Is there any issue with watching or reading educational material that helps us understand more about how conspiracy theories happen, the psychology behind them, and the actual collective facts that they obscure? Basically, not listening to the conspiracy theory itself, but maybe something illuminating about the psychology and such around it.
Yes, that can be a valid part of your research, to understand why conspiracy theories exist, why they proliferate, how they proliferate, the reasons people have for buying into them, so on and so forth. So yes, that can be a valid part of your research. And that's part of what we're talking about. Research it on all levels. Find out what's going on and why humans may be attracted to perpetuate certain theories, conspiracy or otherwise. Ask yourself the why questions. And so that brings psychology into it. Understand the psychology, and you may understand more clearly what is worth pursuing as a theory.
experiment new or different in regards to continuing to raise our frequencies like we've been doing with following the formula? Also, I'm aware our participation is voluntary, but are we kind of like guinea pigs in this experiment? Is this experiment just as new for us as it is for you? And have you done this, or have you done this with other civilizations preparing for open contact?
Yes, we have done it with many civilizations. Now, of course, the details will be different depending upon how their society is structured, of course. But we have done this before many, many times. It is one of the techniques that we put forward to again gauge when individuals and societies are ready for open contact. The idea, again, is that it is now a set of very specific steps. Yes, following the formula is still critical, but the idea is that we're giving you specific actions, since we have said action is the language of physical reality. So the specific steps we are giving you are specific languages in your reality that really allow you, as you say, to walk your talk and get more specific frequencies by taking specific actions that are based on the idea of the formula.
You've mentioned ways of informing our governments about the fact that we, the people, are aware of ET intelligent life forms. Should we continue to do that? What would you like? Would you like to address methods on how we should proceed with it? Will it be part of your future steps and or instructions?
Coming up in step 3.
Oh, wow. This question is about homelessness. How can we better address homelessness on our current Earth? Having once experienced homelessness myself, I strive to assist those in need. Can you suggest innovative solutions for this issue? How has the Interstellar Alliance tackled homelessness on other planets? Can we adopt similar strategies as we transition to a newer, cleaner version of Earth?
It is very rare for us to encounter within the Interstellar Alliance the idea of homelessness in a negative context. It is something relatively unique on your planet in a negative way. So the idea begins with the psychology of individuals, how they feel about themselves, whether they feel worthy or not. It is a very deep and complex subject and must be pursued on the psychological levels as well as the physical levels of providing shelters for people who don't have any. Because some people on your planet are enveloped within a psychology that actually prevents them from having shelter. There have been experiments done on your planet where what you call homeless people have been given the abilities to have homes, the ability to have what they need, been given sums of money to see how they spend it and whether they will use it to take care of themselves. Many of them have simply squandered these resources and refused in any way, shape, or form to avail themselves of what they can to provide shelters for themselves, to take care of themselves when given these tools, because of the deeper psychology that they may attach to the idea of receiving assistance from people. Some individuals who are homeless simply refuse to believe that if they take the help of people, they won't be under their control. They won't be obligated to them, and it is more important to them to remain free of those obligations as they see it. It doesn't mean they actually would be obligated, but if their psychology makes them see the idea of receiving help as an obligation that limits their freedom, their sense of freedom, they may actually choose to remain homeless in spite of the fact that they could be helped by others. So you have to explore the deep psychology, and you have to allow people to find their own self-worth. Now, again, this is in the negative context we are speaking. There are people who simply do enjoy living in the outdoors without a standard or traditional sense of a home, who can provide for themselves very easily as if they are on a perpetual camping trip. So you have to, again, assess whether or not the person is actually choosing this for a variety of reasons that may actually be positive, or may have something to do with the life path they have chosen that can be beneficial for their soul's growth or others around them for their growth by interacting with a person who is free to engage with nature in a way that is non-traditional, outside and without a traditional shelter. So again, you have to assess what is going on, whether this is being created positively or negatively, whether it is part of their soul's path to learn something, how it affects them and how it affects others, but more deeply the psychology of what they think of their own self-worth. And then where you can be of assistance where it's appropriate, you can, again, pool your resources or rearrange your resources to do build shelters for people, as many people do, to provide shelters for those that truly want it, truly are capable of taking care of it, truly honoring the help that they are receiving and improving their own self-esteem and self-worth by having a place that supports them. So there are many different avenues and many different directions you can take with regard to this particular situation. And I would suggest that you investigate them all, but be aware of the deep psychology behind what people are choosing to experience, consciously or subconsciously.
Thank you.
Yes.
Regarding the exercise of putting a picture of a gray in the window of your home, are any ETs practicing by putting a picture of a human in their window?
Some ETs are playing with that idea. It is not something that is as necessary for them as it is for you, because we can always observe you anyway. So, but some of them, especially some of the hybrid children, are sort of playing with that idea to get used to living among you.
It's fun to think about.
Yes.
This person says, I was wondering if your culture has any human subculture they favor, that they like the vibe or aesthetic in particular.
There are some cultures on your planet that have similar traits to some of the aspects of our civilization, and therefore we could say we can relate to it a little bit more easily. We are similar in vibration in certain limited ways and certain limited expressions, but we don't play favorites. So I won't answer it that way.
So you can't tell us just a few of some of the subcultures that you like?
Again, I'm not playing favorites. So the idea is, again, there are certain cultures on your planet that do have certain expressions that are similar, not identical, but similar to some of the traits of my civilization. For example, the idea of the philosophy of Zen or Tao may be very similar to some of the ways that we view reality and experience reality, similar to the idea of the formula. But again, we don't play favorites. I'm not going to say we like one more than another. That's not how we operate. But we recognize that there may be certain traits in certain cultures or certain belief systems within certain cultures that may have some similarity to what we are familiar with in our society. And that's as far as we will go.
Thank you. Are human beings the densest beings in the universe? Do you ever feel frustrated by our dumbness?
No, because again, we understand you are on a path to learn something. You are not the densest we have encountered. There are others that are as dense or denser. But the idea is, again, as we have said, you are strong souls, strong spirits to have chosen to be in a reality where you forget completely who you are, or as completely as possible to forget who you are. So the idea of the challenges that you have imposed upon yourself means that you are a strong master graduating class. And we certainly applaud your bravery and willingness and courage to experience these things for your own soul's growth, so that your growth can accelerate in ways that other civilizations may not be choosing.
What is something that most civilizations in the universe do not understand or comprehend about humans that seem very alien to them?
Well, one of the things I just mentioned, It is quite challenging for some civilizations, even members of my own society without training like a first contact specialist receives, to understand how it is possible for someone to forget as deeply as humans on Earth do who they really are, to forget their connection to spirit, their connection to source. It is almost unfathomable to many beings that such forgetting can occur.
This is the agreement we made by coming to Earth, correct?
Yes, yes, of course. But nevertheless, those that are not necessarily as directly concerned with Earth as I am or other first contact specialists may be, simply find it challenging to wrap their minds around how you can actually forget who you are on a spiritual level. It is not something they have to deal with. It is something they have heard about, but again, find it challenging to understand or comprehend how such a thing is possible. It's not their path to understand that. It's the path of a first contact specialist or a social engineer to understand that. And therefore, they don't worry about it. They just don't really understand how to comprehend it.
And is it our path to remember, to figure out,
Yes,
remember?
yes. That's how you grow.
And is it by doing the formula that we can remember?
That's certainly the strongest way. That's why we give it to you. It's the simplest way that you don't have to overcomplicate or overthink. And within the formula, of course, there are many opportunities to be attracted to do things in the way that are representative of your individual passions that are unique to you. So within the formula, there are many unique ways of experiencing it, but the formula still works for all.
Wonderful. I'm interested in understanding how your people feel and perceive the excitement of meeting us when open contact happens on Earth.
We are very excited about it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be engaging with you because, again, we only follow our passions. So the recognition of joining, as we have with many other civilizations, whether it be in a structured interstellar alliance or even a loose association or friendship, is expansive to us to allow us to experience different ways that different beings have of relating to the idea of existence. It expands our understanding. It expands our knowledge. It expands our experience. You have experiences we do not have, allowing us to experience some of those things, to understand how different beings can create challenges that allow them to discover things in a very different way than the way that we do or other civilizations do, is very exciting to discover, because it adds to the overall uniqueness of all the different facets of all that is, and allows us to understand more of all the ways that all that is has of experiencing itself, which expands our understanding of the infiniteness of all that is. This is very exciting to us.
Will music play a significant part in upcoming open contact? I heard about an event where ET ships respond to our music festival lights. Music is often a way that humans raise their vibrations. Is there any chance that we can witness a mass sighting with some of your representatives during a music festival? It would be great to see your lights in the sky joining the rhythm of our music.
Yes, this is quite possible and maybe very probable, not necessarily right away, but in the years to come.
Oh. Can you tell us a little bit more about the music festivals that you might like?
No.
Okay. What is your current ship height above Sedona?
Approximately 1,500 miles.
Are you at Bell Rock?
Above Bell Rock, yes. 1,500 miles above Bell Rock.
I've recently seen ships near my house that I've previously not seen. These ships appear to be descending lower to the ground. Is there a reason for this? What is happening?
Again, as you all expand your consciousness, you also sharpen your senses to start peering into other dimensions. These things have been around you all the time. Like I say, there's a lot of traffic around your planet. But the idea is that they have usually been outside the vibrational frequency of your senses. But as you expand your consciousness, you can start to see things that you couldn't see before.
Which country is open contact most likely to occur first as you read the energies now?
Who says there will be a first country? Who says open contact won't happen simultaneously all around your planet? Why would there just be one country? That's not open contact.
Right. Can you tell us more about a unique civilization in our galaxy that we've never heard of before?
One moment. One moment. We are looking for what might be most relevant. We have not told you yet about a civilization within the Interstellar Alliance that travels. These beings are in constant motion. They are not bipedal, they are quadrupedal, four legs, as you would understand it. They are constantly moving. Very rarely do they rest. Very rarely do they stop. Their world is patterned in such a way as to allow them to travel long distances. They do this as a matter of gathering information. They do this as a matter of learning. They are constantly, almost constantly on the move, even moving while they rest. They have the same kind of capacity that your dolphins have to have half of their brain sleep while the other half remains awake so that they can constantly move, constantly learn. These beings have created a society that exists within nature in such a way that they have, shall we say, guided nature, trained nature to create certain structures that they use as shelters that they can pass through. But most of these shelters are very long and tunnel-like because they keep moving. And the shelters provide for them information, entertainments, stories, experiences as they move through these long natural tunnels, either in the earth or made of their version of trees or plants. The beings are ranging in size from about the size of what you would call an medium-sized dog to the size of a small horse and sizes in between. They do have a head. They do have two eyes. They have, similar to the idea, as an extension off the face, a muzzle with nose and mouth, but they are not really dog-like. They are not really horse-like. It is quite different. They sometimes will wear certain kinds of drapings, but not really clothing as you understand it. The temperatures on their planet don't necessarily require them to wrap themselves in something to protect against the weather or the elements. It is generally relatively mild. They do have rain. It is rare that they experience things like snow. Therefore, you would find the environment there relatively pleasant, relatively even temperatured. These beings call themselves something that would translate to you in your language as the phrase moving with the wind. But we cannot replicate their language for you. It is completely non-human and requires the kinds of vocal cords that they have that cannot be replicated in a human body. But the translation of their name for themselves is like moving along with the wind. Does that answer your question?
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yes.
Um, You've spoken about stars and civilizations within the Milky Way, the Pleiades, Orion, Sirius. Have you traveled to other galaxies outside the Milky Way?
Our civilization and many members of it have had experiences in other galaxies, the Magellanic Clouds, as you call them, and even the idea of the Andromeda Galaxy. It is relatively rare that we venture outside what you call the Milky Way galaxy, but again, do remember that we are in our natural state, another parallel reality altogether. There are some slightly different configurations of galaxies in our reality that you don't have in yours. And we have visited some of those as well. But it is rare that we venture beyond the edge of the galaxy that you would call the Milky Way galaxy in our reality.
This person says, I would love to know how we can work with the mantis beings to aid and assist us at this time along our path to opening up new realities. Also, what is their connection to our praying mantis insects?
We will talk about the mantis beings at another time. Right now, it is premature.
Okay. You've explained that open contact is not just about contact with you humans, but also contact with all life on Earth. Are there any species on Earth besides humans which you are particularly interested in contacting, which humans are not aware of?
It's not that there are species you are unaware of that we will be in contact with. It's just that because of their nature, there has already been telepathic contact with beings such as dolphins, whales, other cetaceans, with other beings on your planets that you would recognize as animals, and even with the idea of some of your trees and the elementals of your world as well. So you may not know about all the elementals, and we will be having greater contact with them as well. But we have already initiated many telepathic contacts with the elementals of your world already.
This person has a question about, I'm going to try and sum it up. She has a 22-month-old son, and she watches your transmissions on a big screen TV, and her son usually plays in the background. But she's been noticing that every time Daryl starts to get into his channeling state, her son either looks away, looks down, or goes and hides. And then as soon as Bashar comes out, the son goes and plays again as usual. She wants to know what is happening here. Why is he doing this?
He is reacting to the transition from one state to another, from a state that he is getting used to as the so-called day-to-day normal vibrational state of your reality, and therefore is open to the idea of the vibrational state of our reality, but the transition is challenging for him between the two, because it reminds him of the connections to spirit, and in some way takes him away from what he's needing to learn by anchoring into your physical reality. The transitional state makes him feel like he is disconnecting from physical reality, and therefore he avoids it, because his job, his task, his challenge as chosen is to make sure he stays connected to the idea of the physical reality he has chosen to experience. So it's just the transition that challenges him.
And is this something that very young children, so they're more sensitive to these energies? And
yes, of course. Yes, of course. Because again, they are still highly connected to spirit consciously.
Mm-hmm. What is the percentage at for open contact in the current window or for the mid 2026, 2027 range?
The event that we have discussed that may occur in high probability, over 90% at the end of 26, the beginning of 27, is not literally open contact. Please don't misunderstand. It is an event that will lead to open contact. It is not open contact itself, but it is something that can cause a great shift in your consciousness, in your awareness of the possibility of open contact, but it is not open contact itself.
Why do we often avoid pain when seeking clarity and change? Considering daily aspirin use, which can mask pain but not address the underlying issues, reveals a paradox. Why do we choose the human experience, seemingly filled with pain, compared to integrating alien or universal aspects?
Remember that pain is the result of resistance to the natural self. While it's all well and good sometimes to alleviate pain with the methods that you have in your medicines and healing arts, it is very important to understand the underlying causes of it, because that's part of the challenge you have come to face, is how can you transform the idea of resistance to your true self in a way that will allow you to go beyond the idea of experiencing pain, but doing it by understanding the issues that challenge you so that your soul can grow and discover something new. So it's about facing those challenges and finding out where the pain comes from, why you are resisting your true self, what belief systems you are holding on to that are out of alignment with who you are, rather than just numbing the pain so you don't have to think about those things. That's just avoidance.
Mm-hmm. And can you talk about trauma and trauma responses? This person says that my nervous system automatically goes into fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode when I get triggered. I have carried pain and emotional issues in my body since childhood.
You have not carried them since childhood. You are recreating them every moment because you have a belief system that says you have a reason to do so, that you believe benefits you. So again, this goes to the motivational mechanism. You have to discover why you would believe that you need to constantly recreate these things, and why you are afraid, more afraid of the alternative rather than letting them go. This is a very deep and complex subject. In this format, in this forum, we do not have time to deeply address all of these issues since we are not actually interacting with this person directly. But basically, that's it. You're not carrying anything from childhood. You are recreating things every single moment in the present because you believe it's necessary for you to do so to avoid what your belief system says would be even a more painful alternative. So you have to discover why you believe letting go of those things would be worse than simply moving forward in the direction of your truth.
How can I stay connected with my son if I shift to a parallel Earth? I'm focused on raising my vibration, but leaving him behind worries me. He's been manipulated by his father for nearly 2 years, and he's not in a high vibration. If he doesn't shift, how can I communicate with him? As a mother, how can I support him in this human experience if we can't interact due to different vibrations?
Again, remember that everyone has their path. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. Just maintain an unconditional love for this being. Be there for him if and when he decides to reach out or change. Allow him his path. That's all you can do right now. Again, this is a very deep and complex subject that may require more direct communication with this person. But the idea is you need to support with unconditional love whatever path the soul has chosen and whatever challenges that soul has chosen to experience in their lives, and be an open and receiving presence in his life that is there for him if and when he should decide to change and reach out to you, so that he knows he can do that. Just let him know he can do that, but don't insist that he must.
Thank you. I recently heard your transmission about our 7 needs: air, water, sleep, food, shelter, connection, and self-expression. I spend so much time and energy making sure me and my family have the first 5 needs met. It feels like I have nothing left to dedicate to connection and self-expression, which I long for. How can I be more efficient with the first 5 in order to have space to focus on the last 2? Is it just a frame of mind shift? Can you please give me some guidance?
Yes, it is a big frame of mind shift. In other words, you need to open up your creative imagination and figure out how to do the first five in a way that is more in alignment with your passion, rather than going about doing them in the way that your society has told them is the only way that they can be done. So you need to open up your creativity and find the way that works for you to do them, so that the way you do them becomes more effortless, more efficient, more streamlined, more synchronistic. That will allow you the opportunity to allow you to attract all seven in the way that is the path of least resistance for you. Because again, if you're following the formula, all these things, all these needs will fit into the way in which you do things in life that is more representative of the way that works for you, rather than attempting to do them in the way your society has taught you are the only way to do them.
Thank you. We have a lot of love questions. Can a romantic love relationship and personal freedom coexist with each other when a person is in an established romantic love relationship in which both acknowledge each other to be their lover? I mean, boyfriend, girlfriend.
Well, it depends on what you mean by quote unquote personal freedom. Because the idea is that if you really are reflecting to each other what you need to know, you are being honest with yourself about what kind of relationship works for you, then freedom in that relationship is a given, depending on what you are defining freedom to be. But the freedom to be yourself, your true self, begins with an honest expression of who you really are and what relationships are actually correct for you. Because if you're going into a relationship without having communicated what is truly representative of what you prefer, then you may be giving a false impression to the other person as to who you are and what kind of a relationship really works for you. So if you go in as your true, honest self, you will have all the freedom you need to be who you truly are, whatever that means, in terms of being in alignment with your truth, being in alignment with your passion, and being in alignment with the unconditional love you are expressing to the other person or people in the relationships, to allow them to discover more about who they are as they do the same for you. So look to your definition of what personal freedom means, and know that when you are being your true self, freedom in a relationship is part and parcel. Because why would a relationship that is true, that is truly representative of who you are, curtail your freedoms, the freedoms that are important to you to be yourself in any way, shape, or form? That would make no sense. But you have to be honest about who you are and what kind of relationships are actually relevant for the true you.
A couple questions about twin flames. What is the purpose of the twin flame, and how can a person recognize that connection? And how can we foster the twin flame connection to come together in this dimension?
There can be many meanings to this idea. Now, it can be representative of a very strong agreement that two souls may have made to interact with each other in a particular way that truly reinforces one another's ability to become their true selves. Can be a very deep and abiding love experience. But the idea of the twin flame has been misunderstood by many people on your planet, in the idea that they must search for this. All you have to do is allow every relationship in your life to be as important as any other relationship, because everyone that is in your life is there for a reason and is giving you the opportunity to learn what you need to learn, or to be of service to them in ways that will help them. And in that sense, you're all twin flames for each other, because they're all equally important, even though they may not necessarily be expressed in the same way. So we would let go and encourage you to let go of the classic definition of seeking out your twin flame, and just move forward in the formula and attract what you need at any given moment that will serve you best.
If we transition to a parallel Earth that is a higher vibration than our current Earth, ever fall back to the initial version of Earth? If so, what reasons would that occur? For what reason?
Watch your definitions, because you don't fall back. You choose to lower your vibration. You choose to navigate to a version of Earth of a lower frequency. You don't fall back as if you have no control over this. So look to your definitions.
You said that we've already passed the point where there's no undoing climate change. Why is that? What happens to us from shifting to what keeps us from shifting to a parallel reality significantly different enough that it all seems to balance itself out? And maybe similarly, is this the same reason that we can't just navigate to a parallel reality where someone who seems to have died is back and present again with us physically?
Climate change is a natural cycle on your planet that has, to some degree, been exacerbated by human technology and sped up. What you're experiencing now, if it wasn't for the pollution on your planet in a variety of forms, probably would not have been experienced for another century or two. But it is a natural cycle. And you knew that coming in when you chose to incarnate. So it's part of the challenges you are facing that spur you to create things that can mitigate the idea of certain climate change discomforts and challenges for your society, to learn to adapt to these things in ways that will allow you to grow intellectually and on a soul and spiritual level. The idea is that you have agreed to face certain challenges that help you grow, and certain things are simply not relevant for those challenges. So you will not necessarily automatically resurrect people in a new reality that have died because of the effect that their death has upon your soul's growth, in your ability to stretch yourself and reach out to them in spirit, as opposed to simply continuing to have them around physically. The result of agreements you have made with all of these different beings are the results of the challenges that you face that will help your soul to grow in certain ways that you agreed to. And so you will not violate those changes. You will not violate those challenges.
I know that some children remember having chosen their parents. Do all of us choose our parents?
Yes,
Hmm.
every single one of you, for a variety of reasons. You may not think so, but you do. It doesn't mean that the reasons are the same for everyone. Sometimes you may choose parents you have absolutely nothing in common with, but because of the situations that you will face in that particular family, it may actually catapult you in the direction that you know you need to go, just because of those circumstances. So you choose them for a variety of reasons. It doesn't mean that you will necessarily be vibrationally compatible with who your parents are.
Mm-hmm. When following my highest excitement, my physical mind starts to come up. My physical mind starts to come up and wants control. It's from a fear-based belief that that it needs control for survival. Can you give a few suggestions how to relax the physical mind to surrender to the control of the higher mind?
Have a conversation with it. Allow yourself to assure the physical mind that it is absolutely valuable and absolutely necessary for you to have the experience you are having of physical reality, that it has a job to do and it's doing it brilliantly and doing it well. And the idea of connecting to the higher mind is not something that supersedes the physical mind. It is something that allows the physical mind to have a willing companion in life that it can work with, and that the control is shared in the sense of the physical mind understanding that the higher mind only has its best interests at heart, and therefore can relax the idea of its grip on needing certain kinds of control that are really not about control at all, but simply representative of a fear of being out of control. It needs to be told and needs to understand that the higher mind is presenting the physical mind through the energy of passion what it can experience as control automatically and easily rather than having to work so hard at it. So you need to have this conversation with your physical mind that the higher mind is giving the physical mind an opportunity to experience what true control really is all about. And true control doesn't necessarily feel like an expenditure of effort. It feels like things are flowing very easily and fluidly, and the physical mind can relax into that flow and know that it is, in fact, experiencing the control that is built in to your being, to your soul.
Thank you. This person says, I'm new here. I just did the sacred circuit meditation today, and I started crying. My head started moving in the infinity shape and sometimes like a spiral snake. Is that evidence of contact with you? Is there anything more you would like to add to this?
No, it is evidence of contact with higher frequency energies that are now coursing through your nervous system as your nervous system attempts to expand to get used to it.
Thank you. As a Jewish woman, I'm unable to understand the reason for the constant hate and unbelievable anti-Semitism that is erupting around our world. Can you please explain to me why the Jewish people are singled out throughout history, and why have other nations and people continued to call for our extermination to this day? What am I not seeing or understanding? What is the source of such hate and false narratives? From my perspective, the Jewish people enhanced the world, developed, contributed, created, etc. Why is the world so fixated on a group of people that only has 15.5 million in number? Who are the Jewish people from your perspective?
All right, now this is a deep subject, so we will take our time with this. You're not the only group, of course, that has experienced persecution. That's number one. But the reasons for it in your particular culture are generally as follows, if you can follow along with this and understand what we are saying. Long ago, as we have discussed, there was a group of extraterrestrials that you refer to as the Anu, or the Anunnaki, that inserted their genetic material into the early hominid species you know as Homo erectus and Neanderthals and so on and so forth to create Homo sapiens. The bloodlines of those extraterrestrials are sometimes stronger in certain groups than others, where they may not have been quite as diluted. The Jewish people in general carry some of the stronger bloodlines all the way back to the idea of the Anunnaki. Now, those that are out of touch, those that are not consciously aware of all of this going on, still have a subconscious or an unconscious recognition of the vibration of that bloodline in the Jewish people. And they recognize it in a way that is based on a negative connotation, that they were manipulated and controlled by the idea of that ancient extraterrestrial race in creating Homo sapiens as a workforce to help them do certain things. And so, in a sense, it can be experienced by certain people in a fearful way as slavery. Therefore, unconsciously and subconsciously, by feeling the vibration of that bloodline in the Jewish people that has been preserved over time by certain events, such as wandering in the desert for 40 years and isolating them from the rest of society for the span of time that represents a transformation in human culture, that remained the bloodline to be relatively clean and clear, genetically speaking, then they pick up on that vibration that you are still very close to the vibration of the Anunnaki who suppressed them and controlled them. And they have an unconscious resentment to that and react to that and have a fear about the idea that they're going to be controlled again in the same way. So it's a very ancient thing that exists within the survival mechanisms of human beings in their limbic system that picks up on that vibration of the ancient extraterrestrial genes that exist within that culture, that they are very, very afraid of and haven't come to terms with yet consciously in your society. We hope you understand this explanation. Of course, there is a lot more detail to it, but we do not have time in this transmission to go that deeply into it. So we will trust that this will suffice for now.
Thank you. Wow. The title.
This is approaching the end of the questions for this particular transmission. Therefore, we will at this time suggest that you now allow yourselves to end the questions and move forward with the idea of the remainder of this transmission, and balance and center yourselves in the understanding of the steps we are now delivering to all of you that can, if you so desire to participate in them, help refine your vibrations specifically and tune your vibrations specifically to the vibration of the Interstellar Alliance and open contact. So, open yourselves up and breathe at this time.